Welcome into the Wednesday edition of Robby and Rexrode here at 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. I'm Joe Rexrode. Jake Lyman in today for Robby. The Stanley family Disney vacation rocks on. We hope we'll have a full show today and that no one hits any power poles near the studio. Ian Safar producing. Jake, how you doing?
Doing great. Yeah, I hope we don't hear anything happen out on Murfreesboro Pike, and we can actually get through the full show without an hour hiatus there.
Nice explosion out there. That was quite an ordeal. That was a lot of trucks here. We did have a full. I mean, I would have been at times, as Paul Karski was yammering yesterday, I would have preferred for that to be the time when the power went out, but it turned out okay. Ian, how you doing?
Oh, I'm great, guys. How are you today? Fantastic berserker presser yesterday, ready to hit the field, touch grass, as they say.
Thank you for embracing that. The Gonzi scheme is losing. I mean, I guess we could do like a Twitter poll or something like that for the people, but I mean, it's pretty clear, right? It's pretty clear that berserker is a better name than Gonzi scheme. Gonzi scheme, good attempt by Adam Vingan, good attempt. But yes, those guys talked yesterday, and I guess if I had to just sum the whole thing up with a theme, it's probably we're not going to be very good, folks. So this is a difference from a year ago. Not that they came out here and at this press conference and said, we're going to be amazing this year, but the messaging last year, leading to the results, I think made the results even worse. They're being, I'd say, very careful about putting any expectations on the stand, which they should do. I think they're doing it correctly.
Yeah, last year I don't think anybody was coming out and saying we're going to win the Super Bowl. Obviously, that was the clip that got taken and went viral yesterday. But I do think that last year they did set some expectations that the team was going to be competitive. I mean, you had Rand Carthon saying, we filled every single hole. Like we made a list of all the positions that we needed this offseason. We filled every single hole. There was not a lot of talk about that yesterday. They said to exercise patience, and I think that's what Titans fans are probably going to have to do this year.
Yes. Now, Big Joe did ask the question, and we'll play it later. Is this a team that's good and win? So he has been saying he would ask you. And he says he asks it every year. I've been to a lot of Titans camps with Big Joe, and I don't remember him asking that question. But then again, there's a lot of things I forget. But this is a very funny year to ask that question. I mean, of all the years to ask that question, this is a pretty funny one. Now, last year would have been funny too. Yeah, it's probably like, I mean, it's like you could argue for probably several years. Sure. I mean, in some years in the last decade, like they're actually a contender. In 2021. A lot of people thought they would make the Super Bowl. But to ask that this year, and that's pretty funny. And the response was pretty much laughing at it. So, but then also like, yeah, we'll play that. That really boiled it down by Big Joe. But there were other comments about expectations along the way. Chad Brinker, who was much more verbose than Mike Borgonzi yesterday, had a comment about that. I don't know if we have that, Ian, but yeah, here's what Chad Brinker said when asked about expectations earlier in the presser.
Chad, you talked a lot about patience that's coming in. How much is this offseason fit your vision at that time, and what are reasonable expectations for this team?
Yeah, nobody wants to hear that word patience. I get that, but the reality is we understand where we are as a roster. We got a lot of work to do. And we're going to be relying on a lot of young players this season to carry this football team. And we need those veteran players as well to help those young players grow. So there will be some challenges, but I do want to see our football team improve from day to day to week to where by the end of the season, we'll see what we look like. And hopefully we're healthy. This is a game. It's a war of attrition. So you got to be healthy, and there's just a lot of work to do. So it's hard to really define, if you're asking me what does success look like in 2025, I think that's for you guys to write about. I just want to see this team get better, and we'll go through another, season this year an acquisition. We got the first waiver claim. We're going to constantly be looking to upgrade this roster. If guys aren't getting the job done, then we'll get guys in here that will. So the top of the roster is just as important as the bottom.
So that was Chad Brinker on expectations. I mean, he quickly got to and we're going to be looking for other players, and we'll get, and we got another acquisition. It almost sounded like he wished he could just fast forward to have another offseason of drafting and signing players. So want the team to get better day to day, week to week, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, look, no one goes up to these pressers and says, we should win about 9 to 11 games, somewhere in there. That's what I figure. No one does that. But this was definitely one of those, hey, everybody, just in case you didn't get it, if the bottom line is what you're worried about, you're probably going to be disappointed.
It was interesting to hear them basically say this without saying it. This team's not going to be very good. This team doesn't have a lot of star power on it. It's rare to see a team's front office just come out and say that before the year. They're not wrong. There isn't a lot of star power on this team, but rarely do you actually see the GM and whatever, the czar of football, if you want to call Chad Brinker something,
I constantly forget his title.
President of football operations,
right?
Yes, because he was the president, Rand was the vice president,
PFO.
all that stuff. But it's rare to hear the team actually come out and say, yeah, there aren't many stars on this team.
Yeah.
So I think Titans fans, for the most part, obviously there's the exceptions of, we'll have people texting in saying this team's going to win 11 games this year. You can believe,
Will we?
You can believe that if you'd like, but I think for the most part, Titans fans understand this is not going to be a great year this year. There's hope that the Titans take a few steps forward, maybe win 5, 6, 7 games, but I don't think anyone's expecting them to be a playoff team this season.
Yeah, and he did. Yeah, I'm trying to find that in the transcript. Brinker, I think it was Brinker again, too. Again, Brinker, I feel like Brinker's answers were way longer than Borgonzi's. Borgonzi was like, yep, all right, and we want to get to training camp real fast. Okay, any more questions? Here we go. And Brinker was like, hey, let's go. Give me the microphone. But, yeah.
Better idea.
There we go. But he, like you said, he talked about the star power like a star rating. He did say, to paraphrase, he thinks there are some guys who could become that, right? But absolutely not wrong. Who would be a star on this team? I mean, Jeffrey Simmons would be in.
He's the only one in the top 10 list on that ESPN.
You could
right?
argue Ridley just in terms of name value, like people know who Calvin Ridley is.
But knowing who you are in star is still
right.
Yeah, so it's what it is. So and I it's interesting to me, do people are Titans fans refresh? I mean, I heard Jared yesterday. He started his show lying about what Paul and I said on our show, which was refreshing. And I immediately texted him and said, no, we didn't say good job for having a presser. We just thought it was interesting that they had this presser with these guys before the coach. We understand that they have to be available. Jared said, I heard what I heard. So, on it goes with him. But he was, I think, almost happy, excited, I don't know, pleased that they took this approach. I don't know if Titans fan. I mean, Trevor on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHigh.com, 615-737-1025, is like, woohoo, get ready for 3 to 5 wins. Yeah, but you already knew that anyway, right, Trevor? Like, did they reveal anything yesterday? Did they break any news? Like, wait a minute, what are you guys saying? I mean, I think that everybody knows the score with this team. Who cares about this team, right?
This team went 3-14 last year, and it's not like obviously if you have competent quarterback play last year, your team wins more games. Like Will Levis gave away a couple of those games. So you hope that Cam Ward, just the addition of hopefully competent quarterback play, can get this team a couple of more wins. But what else did this team add this year that right now makes them a better team? Like, you added some pieces that you hope can help you in the future. Like Femi Oladejo is a good project piece who hopefully grows into a starting caliber edge rusher. You brought in some young wide receivers. You made a couple of moves in free agency, like Dan Moore hopefully helps you solidify the offensive line. But outside of that, it's not like this team made a whole bunch of huge moves that is going to put them 5-6 wins better than they were last year.
That you wouldn't think so. Yeah, I mean, the offense, I mean, if Moore and Zeitler are good ads, if then you have some player improvement that's got to be a part of it too, right? I mean,
Right.
if the offensive line is not embarrassingly bad, then okay, then that's a change. That's a change from the last, really the last 3 years, but especially the last 2 years. So, but yeah, they did not go out and go big ticket on anything like they did the year before with L'Jarius Sneed, and we will get to him too, by the way. So I think overall, it was. I mean, there wasn't a ton. There was some news in this, and it seems like actually more than one player sort of surprised this front office here as camp gets started. So we will get into that next. The Titans having to pivot a little bit, and then of course, like I said, we will also talk about L'Jarius Sneed. We got Nick Suss from the Tennessean coming up at 7, and I think we're going to be able to cover. We'll cover at the end of the show. I think that's when he
hopefully.
starts, right? I think he starts at 8:45.
That's what it's scheduled
What
for,
a
I believe.
strange time, but I guess they're going to get on the field.
Practice at 9.
They
maybe,
are touching grass today, so we should be able to carry the first few minutes of Cali today too, right before they go on the practice field. We'll be right back. Robby Rexrode 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Jake Lyman in for Robby. So, look, I'm not going to lie, Jake. We talked were we talking about Lorenzo Carter? Or was that last week?
I think we brought it up.
We brought it up
on
on Monday, yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, Lorenzo Carter. That's right. He's on the team. Yeah, that's right. Lorenzo Carter's on the team. Well, Lorenzo Carter's not on the team anymore. He has retired. He has decided to retire. This seems to be a thing. I'm sure this is one of those where it's like, well, if you paid close attention to this franchise or that franchise, you'd see other stories like this with them too. But like the player who, decides, as the season's about to start, and I'm just not going to play. Never mind. I'm good. It seems like it happens to the Titans a fair amount.
2 years in a row now.
Yeah. And, Lorenzo Carter, I mean, he's 29 years old. Is that all? He's 29. But, that's what happens in this league too. I mean, the wear and tear, you can get old real fast, and 29 can be pretty old in NFL years. So Lorenzo Carter, who wasn't exactly someone I thought was, looking at a big season of production, but still a guy who has been in this league, a guy who at that position, I mean, he's been with the Falcons the last 3 years, and a guy who at his position, he was really very good player at Georgia, served a need for the Titans. He has decided to retire. So that brings, you got Levis saying, yep, gonna do that shoulder surgery, and Lorenzo Carter deciding to retire. If Lorenzo Carter deciding to retire from your team hurts your team, that's probably not a good comment on your team.
It's very true. Last year, Sadiq Charles was at least in line to possibly be a starter. So that obviously was a much bigger loss when he decided to retire. And
he wouldn't even answer like Bill Callahan's texts and stuff. He was like, nah, he just disappeared.
And he's back in the league now, right? Like he signed somewhere.
Did he?
I think so. I think he signed somewhere a couple of weeks ago.
He's just like, I just really don't like this team.
I just really didn't want to play for the Titans.
I just like to live in Nashville, but not play for the Titans.
Yeah, he's on the Cowboys now. So
right.
Sadiq Charles back in the league,
Jerry,
after a year off. We'll see if Lorenzo Carter decides to actually retire or if he just wanted to not play for the Titans. But you're right that this one, you would hope, like we were talking about whether he was even going to make the team on Monday. Jalen Harrell was kind of our conversation. So I don't think this is a huge loss. You could probably find a guy who's going to be just as productive for you as Lorenzo Carter, which maybe not productive at all on the street. So I think Borgonzi, I believe he said that they might add to that position. So I don't think this should be a huge issue for the Titans.
Here is some reaction from Berserker. I just call him Berserker. I'm not sure which one. We'll let you figure out.
Yeah, good. I don't know.
Figure it out with the voice. Let's see who it is.
With Lorenzo retiring, how much pressure do you feel, or how much do you need to find another person on the?
Yeah, we feel good with the room right now. I mean, obviously, we had Draymond. We drafted Femi Ardens here. There's a chance we could add somebody here at some point.
Going back to Lorenzo Carter, when did he tell you guys that he was going to retire, and were you all surprised by that?
He notified me yesterday. Yeah.
Was that a surprise to you?
Yes.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was a surprise. All right, and we don't like the surprises. That was not. I'm drifting off Mayor Quimby there. I don't know what the hell that was, but So you got the He just told us yesterday, and also Levis. So by the way, the Levis thing, I don't know what you thought. Yeah, I thought that they took the high road on that. It's been clearly reported that they're not happy. And I mean, if you read between the lines of the answers on Levis, Borgonzi went through everything like, could have done it last year, all this stuff. He had a second opinion, went through. I mean, I think, and we have a quote on that coming later too, but clearly that one kind of, I don't know if blindsided is the right word, but it surprised them. So they're coming into camp with a team they already knew was going to struggle with some bad news.
Yeah, but the Levis thing, at least based on what I got from the answers, I think that he wasn't going to be on the team anyway. But they said that they're not looking to add to the quarterback room, which means I think these three were probably the three they thought they were going to have at the end of camp. I think.
So you think they thought?
I think they were going to try and trade Levis, and now you can't. And next year, coming off the shoulder surgery when teams haven't seen him in a year, probably not going to be as high of trade value. But
I don't know how high it is anyway.
I don't know how. Right, exactly.
So if you want to move him, and it just comes out like it's just you're trading him for whatever just to move him. That could still happen.
Well, Malik Willis went for a 7th last year. I think you would probably hope Levis would go for more than that, especially if a team maybe got desperate. But to me, based on what I heard, they wanted to move him, and now he's out for the year. But for Will Levis, I guess it makes sense where it's like for him, if I'm going to go on to my next opportunity, why would I do it when I'm not 100% healthy? So I get it for Will Levis, but yeah, it sounded like Berserker was unhappy because they were going to try and move him and now they can't. But I don't know if it affects their quarterback room that they planned on for the year.
Yeah. And look, I mean, here we go with, PK refuted this. Stilly is adamant that there was no way that Levis was going to be QB2. I don't buy that. I don't think there was anything decided. Brandon Allen is a low-level QB2.
Right.
He's not as talented as Will Levis. I can make the case for him to be QB2 as the game manager, et cetera, not a risk taker, all that stuff. But regardless, it doesn't matter now. They've lost him. So on the edge front, again, we went through yesterday, we went through the long list of experienced edges who are out there kind of waiting around. Most of them usually latch on with a team that has a pulse, has a chance to do some winning. Doesn't necessarily – I mean, look, if you get a contract beyond that, like Hopkins got, the other Titans went out and paid him more than anybody else would a couple of years ago, so he came to Tennessee, and he had the relationship with Vrabel. But I just – I don't see the Titans – I don't see the Titans being compelled to go beyond market for anyone, and if that's the case, I don't see those guys – being interested in coming here. If you're going to basically make the same thing somewhere, I think most people are picking a place where there's at least a chance to win some football games. All of which is to say, yeah, maybe they make an ad, but I wouldn't think it would be anything significant.
Right. I'm looking at the available pass rushers. There's actually some decent names still out there.
The name value is high.
Right.
It's the player value that you don't know.
Like Matthew Judon, Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith, Jadeveon Clowney. Do we get Clowney 2.0 here in Nashville? I don't think so. I think those 4 names would probably
not.
Those are the guys. They're all 32. All of those guys are going to be looking to sign with a contender, most likely.
Right.
But
again, unless there's it's like, oh wow, I can't pass this deal. But Titans aren't giving that kind of a deal.
Right. But you go further down the list, like Kaiser White, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, Duke Riley. Like I could see the Titans making a move there, and that's a player who, again, kind of like a Lorenzo Carter, probably not going to get you more than a handful of sacks, if that, but a guy who can be a depth add that can maybe make the team and give you a little bit of insurance if Draymond Jones or Arden Key gets hurt, because outside of that, you don't really have a whole lot of proven talent in that room.
I think it was Brinker. He kept referring to the first waiver claim.
Right.
I think we need to start keeping an eye on
That's a good point.
which teams have the extra edge rushers.
Yeah.
That might hit, someone's going to have to cut somebody. There might be somebody's fourth or fifth pass rusher you might want to snag. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think
I wouldn't be surprised.
Right, and I think there's a better chance of something like that than going out and get one of these old guys.
I don't know. We'd have to go through some of the league, see who's
If you'd like to do that, I'm here for it.
Okay. I will do that.
I will not do that.
I will try and go through some of the grades and see which teams might have 1 or 2 extras to give up.
I think it is safe to say, though, to Ian's point, that the 53 that come out of camp probably won't be the 53 for very long with the first waiver claim. Like the Titans are going to take advantage of that. So the 53 who make it on cut day, I'm sure there will be some churn at the back end of that over the next couple days.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it'll change. And they all change. I mean, all these rosters churn to a certain extent. This one maybe might churn a little more than others. K-Dot on the YouTube chat says he had no idea his retirement was coming. That's right. Very good. Good job. Also, Brandon, by the way, R.I.P. to Ozzy Osbourne. I'm glad you said that. R.I.P. to Ozzy Osbourne. Shout out to Dave Matthews, who played Changes last night at his show. in honor of his friend Ozzy Osbourne. And also, if any of you out there went to the Coldplay concert last night, let me know.
Did you go?
Oh my God, no! My daughter asked, and
Were
her
they
friends,
still going up?
No,
the
they asked
tickets?
us to take him to the bridge. I'm like,
Oh.
dude, I'm never ever going to go to the bridge and listen to a show.
Stand
Either
there.
I can afford to go in, or I'm going to be home. No one would take them, so they had to. Well, my daughter's
Worst
like,
dad ever.
well, my daughter's like this. They said it's their last show. I'm like, I went to the Rolling Stones in 1994 at Spartan Stadium, and it was supposed to be their last show. Do you know how many concerts they've had? Do you know how many tours they've had since then? I was like, oh, God, I got to see these old guys. Coldplay will be back. And why is this so? I mean, 2 tickets last night, a couple hours before the show, had
Like
gone up to
$1,000 total.
Like the worst seat in the house was like $650 on SeatGeek. I'm like, how? So if you went to the show, please weigh in and let us know if it was absolutely amazing, or just whatever your analysis of it was. And also, did anybody snuggle up with anybody on the screen? I mean, I'd like to know about that too. When we come back, we're going to get into another guy on this defense who has physical issues, and the story continues on and on with him. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rex. 0-1-2-5-1-6 to the game. All-time great song. War Pigs, Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne. Well done. How old was Ozzy?
76, I think I saw.
I mean, guy lived a life, man. The guy lived a life. Let me tell you something.
Imagine the things he's seen.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. On the text line here, driven by WilsonCounty.com, Stan in Portland says, I'd call them the Killer Bees, Bergonzi, Brinker, Burke, Brian, and Bill. Yeah, that's fine, but
That is a lot of bees.
It's not as good as Berserker, though. But it's not good. It's not bad. Jared from Spring Hill, are y'all believers in Callahan's off-season gaming system? We'll talk about Brian Callahan and some of their comments on him later in the show. Jared says Berserker loved it. Yeah, the gaming system. I mean, I don't really have I don't know. I think we've talked about this before, but I don't have a strong opinion on it either way. Okay, it's fine. Coaches do this stuff. All coaches say goofy crap. They put goofy signs up in the building, and they try things to. It's just like, I mean, look, go to, it's like corporate retreats, trust falls, which is again what the guy should have done at the Coldplay concert. That was a trust fall.
She fell. I caught her.
Exactly. We're doing this is this is our company outing. A trust fall, but I don't know. It's doesn't, to me. It's not some big issue. Some people want to make everything a big issue. I don't know that it's going to be, some sweeping, trend across the NFL. And I think a lot of coaches do something like this, right?
If 3 weeks from now we're getting ready for preseason games and joint practices, and Brian Callahan is still talking about the 8 competitive teams, then maybe you start to question whether he's doing too much.
That might be a bit much.
But in May, when it was actually going on, it's May. Like, they can do these team building exercises. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. So it's like, and those guys did talk about it yesterday. And so it's just like, okay, great. Move on. There's a lot of talk about body comp, a lot of the same stuff that you would expect at a press conference like this. One thing we also expected is that L'Jarius Sneed would come up, and he did. And he, of course, is on the PUP, physically unable to perform list, along with Lloyd Cushenberry right now as camp starts. Cushenberry, everybody expected. Sneed, not necessarily. Says the healthiest he's been a while ago, and here he is. So we have clarification that he had the quad last year. Apparently the quad is healthy, but he had to have another knee cleanup. I mean, obviously the biggest prevailing overarching thing with him is the knee /the knees. And so he had to have a cleanup, and here he is. So this is what was said, some of what was said yesterday about L'Jarius Sneed.
You mentioned some situation, this was initially a quad bruise, and he's now been out for, all of last year and now lingering into this year. Why has that been so troublesome?
I mean, he did have a cleanup on his knee in May, which set him back a little bit, but he's making, progress here. He's really worked hard. He's been here during the summer. So, he's heading in the right direction. And like I said, we'll hopefully get him back here soon.
Guys come back from cleanups in May to be ready for the start of camp pretty regularly, if I'm not mistaken. You saw the other side of the knee in Kansas City where the Chiefs gave up on him. I mean, what's the level of concern with him being able to be a contributor for this team come September, plus with the legal issues hanging over him? How good can you reasonably feel about him at this stage?
Listen, I've keep in contact with LJ all the time. He's worked really hard to get back, and I feel really confident that he's going to be back.
Can you kind of take us into what that working hard looks like? What are you seeing from him? What are the details you
Well, he's continued to be here to rehab. He's been here in the summer, which he didn't have to be. But he's continued to do that, to rehab and to really work. And I've been in constant communication with him. So, we feel good that he's going to be back here at some point.
Is the hamstring over? I mean, is the quad over with now? Is it all knee?
Yes. Right now, he's working his way back from the knee procedure.
So there you go. A lot good job. Good job by the press corps. Kind of hammering on this point. And it's just, look, if you're a Titans fan, then you just got to be sick about hearing about him, really. It's like, okay, when is he on the field? Because look, he's very important. They're paying him a lot of money. He, not long ago, was one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. We just haven't seen any of that here. We've seen a decent player for a few games last year, and then he got hurt. And the whole thing with the quad and the knee, it's feasible that you can have multiple injuries. But regardless, again, the knee is the big thing. So they've clarified, we're not talking quad anymore. We're back to knee. When will he be back? Will he be missing practice? Does he just ramp up and try to play in the opener? I mean, it's got to be tiresome for everybody who cares about the Titans.
I would make the guess. I mean, we didn't see L'Jarius Sneed much in practice in training camp or preseason last year.
And 2 years ago, by the way, he barely practiced with the Chiefs and then was still one of the best corners in the league. That was part of the thing.
Right. I think it's safe to assume you're not going to see a whole lot of L'Jarius Sneed throughout training camp. I think it's probably safe to say maybe up until after the last preseason game would be the first time we actually see him on the field regularly. I'm sure he'll come off the PUP at some point during training camp and maybe work his way back in a little bit, but I don't think L'Jarius Sneed is going to be a regular practice participant throughout the season as he was in Kansas City and as he was last year before he got hurt.
Right. Now, Wes in Clarksville, and this is another thing that comes up with Sneed. He says they need to figure out a way to cut their losses with Sneed. If he does come back, he'll not be in sync with the other guys. Well, first of all, in the second part, if he comes back and he's actually healthy, he knows how to play corner. He knows coverages. He's been in this defense. I mean, being in sync with the other guys, I mean, you're playing your coverage. In some cases, you're simply just covering your guy. The in sync part of this, defense is reading and reacting, right? Offense is when you need to have that chemistry and that timing. So I don't think that's an issue. The issue is just, will he be healthy? Will he play? Can he play? And the cutting the losses, and Karski dealt with this some yesterday. Right now, the timing, the way things are going, any sort of suspension anytime soon is very unlikely. And if that's the case, financially, it's not. You do not cut your losses with Sneed. You are bogged down. I'll find the numbers exactly on the dead money, but you don't do it. So the only way you do it is if you can get out of it because of a suspension.
Yeah, unless he's suspended and you can void a lot of that guaranteed money, he's going to be on the team this year. It's just the hope that he's healthy and can actually contribute. Because even when he was out there last year, like Tyreek Hill, if it wasn't for Snoop Huntley, Pro Bowler Snoop Huntley playing quarterback in that Miami game, Tyreek Hill probably would have burned L'Jarius Sneed for 2 long touchdowns in that game. So
that is true.
It's not like he was playing great.
It's Tyreek Hill, so he can burn anybody on the planet. But yeah,
take it with a grain of salt. But L'Jarius Sneed, I think, has to prove that he can be the guy the Titans traded for and paid all that money. Like, I'm not going into this season expecting that if he's out there, that he automatically is going to be this lockdown cornerback. He's got to prove it this year. First, that he can stay healthy, and second, that he's actually still that kind of player that we saw a couple of years ago in Kansas City.
Yeah, and it's a question of, to me, it's like, will we ever get to the point where we find out? And by the way, yeah, Sneed, who's got a cap number of almost 22.5 this year. You're talking about let's see, dead money at this point. 23 mil. It's not happening. He's going to be on the team. He's going to be on the roster. They're not going to be able to move him. So it's just a matter of hope, the strategy of hope, that he somehow at some point emerges. Look, if we're looking at this team and everybody agrees they're going to be bad, I don't subscribe to the idea that means they have to be bad next year. I think in this league, you should be able to get to decent by next year. And so if that's the case, can he be a part of that? Can he at some point figure it out and be okay and be able to play? Maybe. I wouldn't say I'm optimistic about it. Then the other side of that is just, again, like basically hoping he gets suspended so that you can financially save yourself. I think more likely it's, they're gonna wait it out, and we'll see at some point if he can still play.
And we just talked about to start the show how the expectations for this team aren't very high. So L'Jarius Sneed's going to be on the team this year. And if he's good, great. That's what you're hoping for. But if he's not, you have an out after next year. I'm looking at it. You'd save $20 million against the cap with 8 dead cap. So it'd save you $12 million if you cut him. So basically this year is your tryout year for L'Jarius.
Yeah.
It's like,
unless he gets suspended, he's around.
yes, he's going to be on the team as long as the league doesn't interfere and his legal issues don't interfere. If he's good, great. That's what you're hoping for. And then he can be a starting cornerback next year when, again, you kind of got to be at least competitive next year, right? Like you've got to be in the playoff mix next year or else things are not going well.
Yeah. At some point
but you can cut your losses if he's not very good this year.
Mo says, would you consider Snead a leader on the defense? No. Now, if he's out there and he's playing corner like he did with the Chiefs, then he's a key guy on the defense. And I don't, first of all, like if you're this unavailable, and again, it's hard to be a leader when you don't even practice, right? Like I don't buy that he can't get out there and play, because at that position if there's a position you can do it, it's corner. But how do you lead a defense if you're not even out there during the grind of camp and practice? So I don't think so at all. But would he be one of the better players in the defense? Sure, absolutely. Weston Clarksville says, stop signing hurt players. That's a long-term Titans thing. Now, this was trading for a hurt player. So, and the guy who was part of the trade is back here dealing with the issue.
Yeah. Yeah. They said it was Brinker and Borgonzi who basically worked out that whole deal. So,
yeah, or at least, yeah,
they were the ones communicating.
We're very involved. Right. Exactly. All right. We come back, more on Berserker. And there was a nice little stretch here of various topics that came up that I just thought told us quite a bit. So we're going to listen to that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode 102.5, 106.3 The Game. 102.5 The Game and Souls for Souls have teamed up for a back-to-school fundraiser. Souls for the 615 to provide new shoes for kids experiencing homelessness in Nashville. Help a child in Middle Tennessee step into the new school year with confidence by donating $20 for a new pair of athletic shoes. For more information and to donate, visit thegamenashville.com/shoes. Souls for the 615 is sponsored by Macero and 12 South. Go check them out for handcrafted cocktails, bold plates, great happy hour, and elevated hospitality. Welcome back into Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Jake Lyman in for Robby. Ian Safar producing. And so I think we've done a good job, Jake, of kind of going through this presser. We will get into a little bit of some of the Brian Callahan talk later, and we will actually hear from Brian Callahan at the end of the show, too. And we're also going to hear a little snippet of love from Mike Vrabel, who, my goodness, is he going to have a good time with that Pats presser? You can tell he's already just absolutely loving life. Tell you what. But I thought that the finish to the presser yesterday, I thought it was just really it hit on a variety of topics, but I just thought that it told us quite a bit. And so there was one thing that we omitted, which we already played earlier, Bergonzi talking about the edge situation, but here's how we finished with a flourish with Berserker yesterday, and I just want to hit on some of these topics.
One more on Levis, please. You guys are quick to hold people out when they've got a nagging injury or anything going on at that time of year. Was he full go for you during minicamp and OTA?
Yes, he was full go.
Last 3 questions right here, guys.
Simple question. The team you put on the field tomorrow, can that team win the Super Bowl?
Listen, that's always the goal every year.
Yeah.
We also realize we have a lot of work to do on this roster.
Yeah, you guys think Cam Ward will show up at 5 a.m. tomorrow?
Sure he will.
Yeah.
He's been consistent. He works hard, and I think that's why the locker room really respects him, just the way he goes about his work. There's times he beats coaches in the building. There's been times where I come in pretty early and I see him coming in too. So he's been impressive. I imagine he will be.
There you go. So first of all, I think of all the Levis commentary, and I think Koharski framed that exactly right. Okay, so you guys talked about all the stuff and everything, and then usually if you need something like this, you don't deal with. Who cares about OTAs and crap?
Yeah, in May, if you're not 100%, usually you're being held out.
If you're remotely hurt at that time of year, you don't participate. Was he full go? Yeah, he's full go. Okay, that's the most honest comment. Then of course we have Big Joe's moment. Again, I do need to ask Big Joe. They're going to be out there today, but do you actually ask that every year? I don't remember him asking that question before, but this is a hilarious year to ask the question. Kudos to you, Big Joe. And the thing is, you need the video. You need the video of that exchange to really appreciate it, because they both basically laughed, and Brinker's just like,
Well, Brinker laughs, but Borgonzi just looks at Big Joe and just gives him a death stare for 3 seconds before he answers the question.
Yeah, and then it's like, that is that goal every year. Okay, my constituents, I must tell you that why I'm messing up my Mayor Quimby today, but you know what I'm saying. And I really like the last one too, because Brinker made sure that everybody knows how early he gets to work. It's like, yeah, Cam Ward shows up early sometimes, even as early as me. So yeah,
sometimes I see him coming in when I'm already in my office.
Yeah, exactly. So good to know. But Cam Ward, of course, has gotten a lot of love for coming in early. It's a lot.
He'll beat the coaches in, but he won't beat
not
Brinker.
Brinker.
That's right. He can maybe beat some of the coaches, but not me.
Brinker's up at 1:30 a.m. Gets his lift in and is at the office at 2:30. Man, I tell you what, just in time for the Coldplay concert to let out. So yeah, I thought that was a nice little finish to the whole thing for everybody. We got a little taste of everything, but that was especially the Levis thing. That was finally a little glimpse of their feeling on how it all went down, right? It's just yeah, you can talk this through and spin it. And yeah, we knew it was possible, but let's face it. Once they got to spring stuff and he participated, the expectation is he's going to be available. Whether you're right that it was 100% they were going to move him, or I don't buy that Brandon Allen was going to be QB2 no matter what. I also don't buy that Will Levis was like legitimately competing with Cam Ward. I mean, no one thinks that, I hope. But clearly, they were surprised by this and not happy by this.
Yeah,
Happy about this.
without saying it, Brinker and Berserker, they let everybody know they were blindsided by Levis and Carter. I mean, we played the exchange earlier about Lorenzo Carter of when did you find out? Yesterday. Were you surprised? Yes.
Yes.
So obviously blindsided there, and then Will Levis. They tried to tiptoe around it as much as possible. They're not going to comment on the medical situation, all that stuff. But yeah, that answer pretty much summed it up. Of was he full go? Did you have any concerns about the shoulder? Yeah, he was full go. All right,
There you
enough
go.
said.
Sometimes those really short answers are the ones that really, really kind of say something. David in Paris on the text line driven by WillsCountyHunter.com says, the one thing I hate about Snead is that Stillman gets to gloat about how much he was right. And then I said, right about what? About how his knees are bad. Okay, let me stop you there. This is not, I don't think Jared broke that story. I could be wrong.
No, but he's been the one saying pretty much all year that they've been trying to cover up the knee issues by saying it's a quad. That's what his.
So, yeah, the second sentence from David is he'll claim the Titans lied all along and he called it. Yeah, I mean, I can see him saying that. But, I mean, how does this prove they lied?
It doesn't, because I guess you don't know when the quad fully healed, and he got the knee cleanup in May. So you don't know. But, yeah, Jared's going to claim that it was always the knee the entire time.
Did he claim that yesterday? All I heard was him lying about what Karski and I said. Did he claim that yesterday?
I'm not quite sure.
Okay. I'm going to assume he did. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't prove that they lied about the quad. It doesn't prove that the quad didn't exist or wasn't an injury, right? I mean, it demonstrates that right now the issue is a need, and we all know, of course, the bigger issue, the bigger question with him is the knee, right?
It was a little bit odd that last year they said, he took a helmet to the quad in that Colts game. And he finished out the game after that.
Right.
And then he goes on the IR. Like, does a helmet to the quad make you miss the entire rest of the season? That is a fair comment by Jared of maybe the quad was an issue for a week or two, but then they realized that the knee wasn't going to hold up the rest of the season. And at that point, the season was kind of lost.
Yeah.
So they were just like, all right, take the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, I don't know. I mean, NFL teams, at least certainly, I mean, sometimes flat out lie and certainly sometimes fudge things with injuries. Actually, this brings me to a tweet I got yesterday by at RTP Joel. It says, your Rex rant should be about Stilly trying to claim the Titans were lying all last season about his quad injury, that it was the knee all along. Ridiculous. Well, again, I do think it's hard for me to buy that, like, they just completely out of thin air said, let's call it a quad. I mean, I guess it's possible. I doubt it. But also, again, to your point, it is strange. And the quad, it's right there close to the knee.
I'm sure
right?
there had to be a quad issue at some point, but I think it was more.
Did they overplay what it really was?
It was probably lying.
That's probably more realistic.
It was
right?
lying by omission of, it's like, all right, he's out with a quad for week 6. Was he out for a quad for week 12?
Yeah.
Probably not.
It's like the quad, that's the injury. We can call it the quad. We cannot talk about your knee. And now, by the way, take the rest of the year for that awful / those awful knees. And
right.
Then we'll see if it. And now, of course, he just got cleaned up. And like Kaharski said with the question, usually those cleanups, like, have you ready for camp? Why is this timed out where he's not ready? I mean, the knee is certainly. So anybody who argued that it's not the knee that's the biggest concern, that person would be wrong. But
especially, didn't Snead say at some camp he was working at that he was healthy like 3 weeks ago?
As healthy as I've been, yeah.
So
yeah. Yeah, so more fun with Legarius Snead. We come back, we'll have fun with Nick Suss from the Tennessee and Robby and Rexrode 102.5, 106 through the game. Welcome in, second hour, Robby and Rexrode here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. I'm Joe Rexrode. Jake Lyman in for Robbie Stanley. Ian Safar producing. And we're very happy to welcome in our next guest who has been out there and will be out there. Get the this guy wears pants out there. And I remember that he gave me a good explanation. I think it's probably a sun avoidance, but we can ask him right here. Nick Suss of the Tennessean, Titans beat writer. Remind me, Nick, why you wear pants when it's 98 degrees and blazing hot sun covering a team doing training camp?
Because I have respect for the job, Joe.
That's a good answer. Are you
you
going tuxedo this year?
I am getting in the car right now with top hat and tails.
Wow.
We are fully ready for the most formal of training camps in this league.
I think you're going to command a lot of respect out there, you know. Carr's going to be out there in his little tank top and his baseball cap, and you're just going to outclass him big time. But seriously, you told me a reason at one point and I forgot, and it was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, some of it's sun protection, and some of it's just like, I don't know if I own a reasonably length pair of shorts, and we don't need to get into my specific insecurities, but like, I don't know what the acceptable length of covering the knee above the knee is generationally acceptable at a work event. And so I'm like, I'm just going to wear pants. It's not worth it. I
say go with like the real baggy cargo shorts, like when I was young. Those I think those are still cool, you know. So, but yes, you're right. Like, actually, I'm wearing a pair of shorts right now because my wife buys me my clothes, but they're actually pretty tight and they're like pretty high up my leg. You know, I guess that's the cool thing, huh? That's what the cool kids are doing.
If I knew what was cool, Joe, I'd be in a different industry. But as somebody who's trying to represent at least some modicum of cool, I'll wear a pair of jeans today, and then I'll observe. And if there's a pair of shorts, I'm like, oh, I can pull that off. I'll go to the store and spend $14 or whatever, but that's the most.
All right. So, see, a frugal shopper too. I like that a lot. All right, listen, before we get into camp and yesterday's presser and what's coming and all that, I did want to talk about, Nick, about your story. I thought you did a great job on the first round quarterbacks of the Super Bowl era, trying to lay out like what has worked, what hasn't worked, etc. We talked about it at length when it came out on the show, but I want to ask you, anything in there really surprised you? I was a bit surprised by a few things. As you went through it, what was most surprising to you, or what struck you the most?
I mean, the most surprising thing is just how much doesn't matter. Like, we can get into the stuff that does matter, and I think that that's really, really valuable and worth talking about. But just fundamentally, the lack of correlation between production and future success is kind of startling. We know it's a bottom line industry. We know that wins and losses matter most. We know that continuity matters most. But the fact that I could not find any modicum of connection between how many touchdowns you throw or how many yards you throw for or how often you're sacked, which I thought would be a huge one. The fact that none of this seems to be at all strongly correlated to quarterback success really made me sit back and reevaluate what it is we need to be looking for in year one with Cam Ward and what it is we need to be looking for with rookie quarterbacks in general. Because if the lesson here isn't go throw a bunch of touchdowns or go try not to throw interceptions or protect the quarterback, if the lesson is purely, hey, give him some continuity and let him learn from his mistakes, then we might be looking at this entire endeavor the wrong way.
Yeah, well, and I definitely got a little more from the whole thing. And this is not, of course, nothing's true across the board. There are always exceptions, but it seems, Nick, like, look, if you are one of those guys, you're probably going to find your way, even if you're in a bad spot. And I think that more than I did before after reading this.
Yeah, it's the thing of like the self-selecting bias of the quarterbacks who start week one are more likely to be successful than the quarterbacks who don't start week one. But the quarterbacks who start week one are the guys who people think are the best already. So we're kind of saying that, well, if we think you're good, you're going to be good situation. So I don't know too much that we can learn from the self-selection of the eyeball test already works. But I do think that when we looked at I'm saying we, I did it myself. When I looked at all of this data and saw just how likely the tier 1 guys, the best of the best, were to have experienced continuity year 1 to year 2, and how likely those tier 4 guys weren't to have experienced continuity year 1 to year 2, that did startle me a little bit. That, look, sometimes it's as simple as don't knock a quarterback off track if they're heading into year 2. But you also have to make the decision, okay, are we building the entire franchise off of a quarterback's confidence, or do we want to actually go get a coach who we think will be able to be here long term? And it's such a juggling act. But if that's the one thing that does seem to consistently play out, where you move off of a coach after year 1 of a quarterback, you're going to set him back a year or 2, and it's probably going to end up, by the time his rookie contract's up, he's not where you want him to be. That does startle me a little bit.
Talking with Nick Suss from Tennessee and here on Robby and Rexrode. Speaking of Cam Ward, starting off his first training camp today, and no Will Levis now this season. How much does that change for Cam Ward? Obviously going to get the lion's share, if not all of the first team reps now, but maybe not as much competition and pressure in that room too. How much does the Levis decision change how Cam Ward's first training camp is going to look?
I mean, it shouldn't really change anything. I might question whether it changes stuff about how he handles the preseason, of just specifically who's playing and what reps in the games. But practice-wise, I don't think that there was any expectation that there would be much of a rotation, that there would be much of a true one-for-one top team reps competition situation. Like, this isn't to say Levis was not going to participate at all. Obviously, it's going to change how Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle take their reps, but you got to keep the long view here. And even if the short view is that we were going to go through another week or 2 of a little bit more rotation at the top, the long view is that Cam Ward wasn't drafted to be anything but the Titans starter of the present and future. So that is still the case. And while it is a bummer that Will not be out there, because it's fun to watch a guy who can throw a ball really hard and really far in practice, it's something that he'd never experienced before, and it would have been fun to see. But obviously the decision's been made, and now the focus can entirely be on Cam, with less focus on the sideshow about announcing a starter and that sort of thing.
Coming out of the press conference yesterday, we learned a little bit more about the L'Jarius Sneed saga and what's healthy, what he's coming back from. What are your thoughts on what Sneed could be for this team this year? Is there an expectation that he's going to get healthy and he can be the number 1 cornerback for this team, or is that more wishful thinking as he starts camp on the PUP list?
I kind of frame it based off of the converse look of what does he mean to the team rather than what could he mean. Of, look, this defense is set up for aggressive cornerbacks to be the thing that make it go. You didn't go out and spend a bunch of money on pass rushers. With Lorenzo Carter retiring, I don't think that was much of a pass rusher help either. He was one of the league's least productive pass rushers last year, but still, that's another hit to that room. So you're looking at a team that, if you're not making pressure off the edge and you're collapsing the pocket from the interior, the cornerback play on the outside is going to need to be sticky to take there longer, since the quick pressures aren't going to be happening as much. And they're going to need to be the ones making the havoc plays if you're not going to have as many opportunities for strip sacks and negative plays off the edge. So in theory, if you have Sneed and McCreary and Brownlee all playing at the same time, and that's 3 aggressive downhill types of corner, you can make this defense run without a dominant pass rush. But if you don't have that dominant pass rush and you're missing one of your aggressive, sticky corners, you get into a situation where you ask, what does this defense do to make opposing offenses struggle? And I don't know if an interior pass rush is enough for that. I don't know if good defensive tackle play can singularly make a defense create the big plays it needs to turn the ball over and create negative plays and that sort of thing. So if Sneed's healthy, frankly, who the heck knows? We've seen him play 4 or 5 times in a Titans uniform and practice maybe 10 times in a Titans uniform. I need to see it before I can say anything about it. But if he's there, I have a feeling this defense can possibly work. If he's not there, I'm going to need a lot of convincing that this defense can function the way it needs to.
Last thing for you, Nick. One of the things, like you said earlier, Levis, it's like, it's fun to like watch someone who can throw the ball, has some arm talent, might get a ball in the water perhaps on the bounce, during camp. That's all out. Also, I figured we'd see like halves of these preseason games with Levis, and that would have been interesting, and maybe that leads to a deal or whatever. So we know, I think this clears things up in terms of reps. Obviously, you take a quarterback out of the situation in practice. What about preseason games in Cam Ward? Do you think, do you get a sense, do you feel, and what do you think they should do in terms of how much they should play him in those games to get him ready for the season?
Get a feel. I probably want to see these practices and talk to some more people before they know how ready he is. I think that they need to experience that before we can guess on it. But my judgment, I'd like to see him play a couple of series in two of them and maybe a half in one of them. You don't want to expose him to too much, and you know that this is bland offensive scheming, so it's not necessarily about commanding the offense, but I want to see him react to the speed of the game and to having rushers in his face. And really the only time you're going to get that is in the preseason. So that's the biggest checkbox for me this entire preseason. And maybe I'm unique in this regard, so I'm probably valuing the preseason games a little bit too much. But I know how good he is at throwing the football against air, and I know how good he is at talking and rallying his teammates and all the stuff that's the rah-rah side. The one thing I don't know is how he's going to react to playing full-speed NFL football. And so the more opportunity he has to do that, even if that means playing a full half in Atlanta or something like that, I welcome it.
Nick Suss from the Tennessean. Thank you very much, sir. Titans beat writer. Have fun today. Sweat it out in style, my brother. Enjoy it out there.
I'm going to try to. Thank you, guys.
All right. Nick Suss from the Tennessean right there. When we come back, we will react to some of that and get a little bit into that idea of Cam Ward and seeing live NFL pass rush. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Oh, yeah. Tune in to ESPN 94.9 The Fan today as the Nashville Sounds take on Charlotte at First Horizon Park. Pre-game begins at 6:20 p.m. First pitch at 6:35. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Sounds Baseball on ESPN 94.9 The Fan presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. Let that Black Sabbath fill your ears. Dude, listen to Ozzy. Rest in peace, Ozzy. George on the YouTube chat says the Titans played War Pigs for every kickoff last season. Horrible song gets nobody hyped. George, horrible song. Look, I don't know if War Pigs is a kickoff song necessarily. Actually, the Vols though, Tennessee played War Pigs. I don't remember if it was a big game, and I remember it, and they did not laser, but they did like the light show thing, and it was pretty awesome. It wasn't kickoff, so I don't know if it's a kickoff song, but horrible song. That is the worst take of the day. And we've had some doozies already, George. Also, on the music front, I'm still waiting to hear from anybody who went to Coldplay last night. Apparently people paid $8 million to go to Coldplay. Somebody out there who's listening must have gone to Coldplay. I need information on the show.
Nevada Josh on the text line says, Will Levis was at Coldplay with his side piece Liam Cohen trying to work out a new deal with the Jags.
Ah, at first I was like, "Hey, really?" Okay, it's a joke about Liam Cohen. All right, thank you. I mean, seriously, who actually was there? Someone must have been there. I do want to read this text, Josh. You know what? You know what else I want to do though? Before that, you know what I want to do? I want to give away these pair of tickets to see Ghost. Since we're on a music kick right now, Ghost, Bridgestone Arena this Saturday. Caller, what do you think, Ian? How about caller 4?
4 sounds good.
Caller 4 to get those tickets to Ghost Saturday at Bridgestone. But I want to read this text. This is maybe this is a little bit of a wake up call for Titans fans. Quote, this message is for all the whiny, sad, crybaby ass Titans fans who hate all these guys in charge. All the players suck. The organization's bad and blah, blah. You're supposed to be fans, not haters. A lot has changed since last year. Let's at least watch some football before you lay down and curl up and get whooped because these players ain't going to do that. Let's give them some love and hope and optimism before hate. And let's tighten the fart up. Thank you. Thank you for that text. You know what? It's good to hear something like that every once in a while. It is nothing but negativity. And look, it's nothing but reality. They're not good. But this is the time of year when you're supposed to talk yourself into something positive about your football team, right?
There's supposed to be hope at this time of year. And I understand that the Titans roster, it's just not very good. And they're probably not going to be contending for anything meaningful this year. But I like the texter's message. Let's be a little bit optimistic before we even spot the ball and start playing football.
Yeah, let's let them prove that they suck before you know for sure. All right? Jackson on the text line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, 615-737-1025 says, Titans used to play Crazy Train back in the day before the opening kickoff. That was awesome. Should bring that back. Okay. Yeah, I think Crazy Train, although War Pigs I think is a much better song. I think Crazy Train might be a better kickoff song.
Yeah, I will say anything's better than, didn't they play Swag Surfing for like 2 straight years before every single kickoff? That was horrible.
I think that's right. And like John Glennon and I used to always sit in the press box, and I love Johnny Cash. But the Johnny Cash song that they play going into the fourth, it's not Ring of Fire.
Well, I was going to say the Ring of Fire after the touchdowns is horrible too.
But the one they played going into the fourth quarter is like, it's always like, oh, man, everybody's getting pumped up now. Getting
Folsom Prison Blues.
Yes. It's like, oh, yeah, now everybody's on fire. That's just not the right timing. Keith says, fart George, rest in power Ozzy. I am heartbroken. So, yeah, I mean, calling War Pigs a horrible song, my God, that is a atrocious take. Okay, so Cam Ward, preseason games. What are you doing if you're in charge? You're coaching this team. What are you doing with Cam Ward in preseason games?
I think you're doing the 2 joint practices. I don't know how much you actually need to see him in the preseason games. Honestly, if he gets
there's still no taken to the ground in the joint practices.
That's true.
And that does change now that adds the risk, but it also still changes like mentally you're not being taken to the ground in joint practices.
That's a good point. I think if I'm the head coach and I'm sorting this out, I say Cam Ward gets as many reps as possible in those joint practices. He doesn't play at all in would it be the Falcons game is first?
Is it
Falcons, then Bucks,
Tampa
or
Bay?
Bucks, then
I
Falcons?
thought it was Tampa Bay, then Falcons.
Whichever the first.
Tampa is first.
Tampa,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't play him at all against Tampa. Then maybe 2 series against the
Atlanta,
Falcons,
and then Minnesota.
at home. I'd probably say give him a quarter and a half.
You're telling me that you would force people to watch Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle quarterback the entire preseason
Boyle.
game?
Correct.
Oh, Boyle
what'd I say?
rules. No, it would probably just be Boyle. I don't know how much. I guess the
It's
backup
just
gets
all
some.
Tim Boyle?
Probably in the preseason.
Bring in.
You gotta play your backup, right?
I guess
Bring in some undrafted
Why
rookie
just
who
stop
can,
preseason games?
he can play the fourth
it's not
quarter.
worth the injury risk.
Man.
Yeah, I if you have 2 joint practices, Cam Ward doesn't need to play a ton the preseason. I think he needs to play some. Like you don't do the Tannehill and just put him on the shelf until regular season games start.
No, I agree. Like you have to play some. I mean, look, there's risk, but
like
it's still not the same thing as a regular season game. And I think you have to find some things out, and you have to. I mean, it's a chance to get him better, right?
Yeah, I think you need to see him in the preseason a decent amount, more than you would probably next year. Obviously, like next year,
Sure.
if
Once he's
like,
established, and you just ice him.
but
See you on September 4th or whatever.
like Nick saying a half in the last game of the preseason, like they used to do that. That was what it used to be. The third preseason game, you'd see the starters out there for close to the entire first half. I don't know about that. I would say play him the first quarter. If you feel good about the first quarter, then bench him. If he needs one more drive to get the confidence up heading into the regular season, you throw him out there again. But I wouldn't say he needs to play more than 3 series in any given preseason game.
Okay. Texter says, I don't need to wait and see anything. With Callahan as head coach, I know they will be garbage. So there we go. A quick rebuke there of the positivity. Jackson says, we're not getting any Coldplay, but we got a lot of stadium music in for me. He says they used to, Nissan Stadium used to play Give It Away by Red Hot Chili Peppers after the opposing team turned it over. Good. And Beck's Loser when the opposing team ran out of the tunnel. Those are
That's right up your alley, Joe.
I love both of those things. So there you go. And yeah, a lot of people, Caleb says if they have any other QBs at all on the roster, they got to sign someone to get through the preseason. They said, I mean, Mike Bergonzi said yesterday they probably aren't. I mean, they have 3 arms. You know, a 4th arm is fine. I think it's I think it's Cam, Brandon Allen, and Tim Boyle. Maybe they'll sign a 4th guy, but I don't think they necessarily will.
I mean,
it sounded like they're not planning on it.
If you wanted to sign a depth guy who's undrafted free agent who just comes in and he can be your mop-up guy in the 4th quarter of a preseason game, that's fine. Yeah. But nobody who's going to legitimately get any meaningful reps is going to come in at this point, I think.
When we come back, I have to yell at, I think, who might be the dumbest person for it. I think we may actually have, it's almost like back-to-back rants coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106 through the game. I mean, I'm just going to let this one play too. But I will tell you, Paranoid by Black Sabbath, great jam. But I also will tell you that this September, Tim McGraw will be performing at Trinitix's Rock the Cradle in Nashville, a meaningful event supporting newborns and moms at Ascension St. Thomas Midtown. Get your tickets now at rockthecradlenashville.org. Great song. This was, I think, there you go. Turn it back up. This song, as featured in Dazed and Confused, too,
might be the best soundtrack of any movie.
Might be.
It's up there.
Might be.
Yeah.
And this, I think this was like part where they were like going out to the moon tower, right?
Oh yeah, Kegger at the moon tower.
Full part. Phil Keggs at the moon tower. So there you go. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. We're gonna take a quick detour here because I just have to address Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti, who hilariously to me, and I did write a column about this at The Athletic, but hilariously to me in Las Vegas yesterday, Big Ten media days in Las Vegas.
In Vegas.
Yeah, sure. Like everybody has their media days in Vegas now. They just rotate. He is doubling down on this horrific college football playoff expansion plan. And the thing is, he actually is separating it. He's kind of in the past has framed it. And first of all, when I say in the past, he did one podcast with Joe Klatt. This is the first time he's talked publicly. I give him credit for standing up there in front of all the reporters and doubling down and giving it a try, okay? I give him credit for that. But he's kind of even separated it from, it kind of has been framed, if the SEC goes to 9 games, okay, then we'll, basically we'll back away and do the common sense thing, which is if they go to 16, you have 5 automatic bids for conference champions, and then everyone else is an at-large bid that is selected based on a committee that looks at all the factors. These goobers in the Big Ten want 4 for the Big Ten and 4 for the SEC and 2 for the Big 12 and 2 for the ACC, and they want to rig the playoff. They want, because for reasons, because we have more money, just because we just deserve it, just because we're the Big Ten and the SEC. Now, again, the SEC, thank goodness, is now on the other side, and they better not change. And I think Greg Sankey last week made it clear they're not changing. I mean, they don't agree with this. And the SEC shouldn't agree with this because more at-large bids and not letting the Big Ten get 4. And really, the Big Ten and the Big 12 and ACC aren't necessarily going to get 2 every year either. You're better off if you're the SEC saying, you know what, let's go ahead and ride this out. Last year in a 16-team playoff, the SEC gets 6. But Tony Petitti is making his case, and it's total spin, right? It's like he never addresses why you should have more if you're the Big Ten. He never addresses why you should have more if you're the SEC. Just, we need to take it out of the committee's hands. Some people that appeals to people. This should be results on the field should matter, not a committee. But then, of course, the answer is, so the results in your standings, in your 18-team league with league schedules that are completely all over the damn map, that's what should matter? He also said, quote, let's better connect the regular season and the postseason, end quote. He wants these gimmicky goofball playing games as part of championship weekend. So this plan, for anybody who hasn't heard me rail about it, I'm going to do it one more time. You have a championship game, but then you also have your 3 and your 6 will play, and your 4 and your 5 will play. And the winners of those 2 games get the automatic bids, just as the 2 teams in the championship game are just they're in. It's first of all, if it doesn't sound stupid, let's go back to last year. Indiana was the 3. Indiana was the surprise story of college football. Indiana got in. People were mad. I think they should have, but there was a case to be made for some of those 3-loss SEC teams. It was very close. This has made everybody overreact to all this stuff. But Indiana, according to this plan, is in a 1-game playoff to get in the playoff with Iowa. 8-4 Iowa. 6-3 in the Big Ten. Played nobody except Ohio State and lost by 28. Lost by 12 to a bad Michigan State team. Lost to a bad UCLA team. The best thing Iowa did, they lost in the non-league to Iowa State, their rival. This team would be 1 win away from a locked-in playoff spot, and no sorry SEC team that's 10-2, but you're behind everybody, or 9-3. Sorry, Big 12 team, whatever. I promise you, there will be teams more deserving than Iowa of last year to get in. And Iowa could have beaten Indiana in one game. Sure. The best thing they did last year, they beat Minnesota and Nebraska. Those are the big – and this is seriously what Tony Petitti said. Quote, if you're 6-3 in the Big Ten, I would argue that's a great record. And if you stumbled in a non-conference game, I don't know why that disqualifies you, end quote. Like if anyone listened to him yesterday and has been following along and still thinks that they should go to this, I don't know what to say anymore. Like my head's going to explode. It's just so I want to thank Tony Petitti for actually telling everybody why it's a terrible idea.
I have never understood why anyone would go for the 4-4-2-2 model. First of all, it makes the conference championships just completely meaningless. I mean, for the most part, if it's a 16-team playoff, you can assume that both teams playing are going to get in. But you'd like the auto bid. With this system, the conference championship game doesn't matter. All it can do is injure your players. It's like, yeah, I'd like to put up a banner that says I was a Big Ten champion, but the eventual goal for those teams playing in that game is to win a national championship. And he says he wants to take it out of the committee's hands. The committee already ranks 25 teams every week. Like, the rankings are already, they're doing the work anyway. So what's the difference of having the top 16 get in or the top 12 get in? It's the exact same process. You just add 4 more teams on. I think it works pretty well. Obviously, they worked out the kink this year of the seeding, which having the auto bids for the conference champions was horrible. And we saw that last year. Although Arizona State, they gave Texas all they could handle. But Boise State getting a bye over a team like Penn State or Texas, that shouldn't happen.
Right. Yeah, they fixed that, and they should have.
But I think it's the 5 plus whatever model is the perfect way to do it. We have 5-7 now. If you go to 14, it's 5-9, then 5-11. That's how it should be. And there's a reason the Big Ten is the only conference that's really advocating for this, because they're the only conference that this legitimately will help. Because most years, I would argue that 4 is probably the right number for the Big Ten,
right?
Give or take 1.
I agree. There will be years when they may only have 3 that should be in. There will be years when they'll have 6. I mean, look, like USC can come back and
Washington.
Yeah, like, they have some programs, but if you compare the upside and the quality and just the resources and everything, the profiles of their top programs versus the SEC is much deeper.
Yeah, year to year.
The SEC is much better.
Like, over time, the 6th best team in the SEC is head and shoulders better than the 6th best team in the Big Ten.
Usually, yes, for sure. So, meanwhile, and Caroline and I had this argument when Jared flipped the script and had us argue on Jared versus Joe. But then you have what will this do? Because I think we all agree we want good games in September. We want good non-league scheduling. So some of the case being made here by the Big Ten is that if you don't go to their dumb plan, that you're going to cost yourself. Ryan Day, Ohio State coach, national championship coach, who's still on the hot seat with his fans until he beats Michigan, says, quote, I don't think it makes sense to keep scheduling games like Texas, which they're playing, if they don't get their way on this format, which is like, of all the dumb things said yesterday, I think that takes the cake, Ryan Day. So if we're 5-11 and the committee is going to look at it a whole season and is going to judge what you do, and yes, sure, the SEC is like, schedule strength's got to be more, fine. But in the 5-11, the committee is going to judge teams on their whole body of work. So you're going to stop playing tough games when that matters, but you're going to play them once the format says all that matters is your standings. These games don't matter.
Yeah.
If you're Ohio State in this format, it's conceivable that you could win a huge non-league game, beat Texas, stumble a couple times in your league, be clearly better than like the team ahead of you in the standings because they had an easier schedule. But no, I'm sorry, the standings are all that matters. It's insane. It's insane. And again, if you get to the point in these leagues where just being the top 6 and then you're going to play a playing game Okay, then that's basically an NFL model. So guess what? The September games are the August games in the NFL. They're preseason, games.
Yep, they don't matter.
It's
And
insane to me. I can't believe that we're actually arguing this.
right, I don't get what Ryan Day is trying to say there, because playing a game like Texas, if you're Ohio State, you win that game, that is automatically a massive resume booster that you'll have for the entire season. Even though it was in September or August, the committee is still going to look back and say, Ohio State beat Texas.
And by the way, if you lose to them in a very good game and you challenge yourself, I promise you,
the committee's not going to hold it against you.
It's a talking point every week about teams that challenge themselves in non-league. And I understand that Indiana didn't last year. And so they're 11-1. People are mad. Again, the Indiana thing that happened last year has caused people to overreact in so many ways.
Indiana got very lucky that they, outside of Ohio State, they avoided every good team in the Big Ten last year. And they won the games that they should. You do get credit for that.
And they dominated. Again, like, Iowa, for example, they beat Nebraska 13-10. Indiana beat them like 42-10 or whatever. I mean, they were a dominant team and against mediocre teams. That did matter too.
They won the games they're supposed to, and they did it handily. You win 11 games in a power conference, I would argue you should be in. Like, no matter, unless your strength of schedule is just abysmal, I think you should be in if you win 11 games in a power conference. But that also doesn't mean, like you said, that if you're the sixth best team in the Big Ten, that you deserve a play-in to get into the playoffs. Like, it's Iowa is
it's an 18-team league, guys. The schedules are so all over the map.
Well, and what Petiti was trying to say yesterday, 44% of the NFL gets in to the playoffs. In this system, only 10% of what it's like. Well, that's.
I mean, go back to MLB Network, man. Like, if you don't understand the difference between the NFL and like college football with more than 100, like, I don't know what to tell you. It's insanity.
Drinkwitz was saying that the other day too. It's like the people who don't understand that the NFL, where the talent is so concentrated that you can have 44%
standing should matter in the NFL.
It should matter because even though schedules will be different, they're pretty much exactly the same. Like, there's
no comparison to the variance that you see in college football.
Right.
The good news is, I think, because of this stalemate, I think we're just going to stick at 12, which is totally fine with me. So I guess if we have to scream about it for a while and stick at 12, that's fine. When we come back, Rex Rant. I got more people to scream at. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Mokhtar.
Olaf, Berserker.
Berserker.
I can't wait for Mokhtar to play this weekend.
I like General Booty.
I think Stone Temple Pilots, and I promise I don't do drugs, but, you know, that was my first rock concert right there.
You can act like a man! Oh, that Honey Mokhtar. That Sam Porridge. You know, he really pours it on. And there it is. Ian Safar. Some more gems here as we get into the Rex Rant. So I want to do a little history lesson, guys. Okay? Let's go to the NBA. Wilt Chamberlain, 1965. The first NBA player to make $100,000 a year. In today's money, that's a little over $1 million. In the 1979-80 NBA season, Bill Walton and Moses Malone both became the first players to get to $1 million in AAV. Today's money, it's about $4.5 million. That continued on various milestones as you went forward. Larry Bird's first guy to get $5 million a season. Magic Johnson, first guy to get $10 million a season. Fitting for those two because they basically saved the league. The NBA started in 1947. Do you know when the NBA first became profitable? Either of you. Trivia.
No idea.
90s?
Mid-80s. So it took about 40 years for the NBA to get profitable, which is freaking hilarious as we parachute in on this conversation around WNBA players wearing pay us what you owe us t-shirts during All-Star Weekend. So right away, and the reaction, very predictable. I know that I'm indulging idiocy with this, but first of all, I can sum up some of the people screaming about this in this way. Protect women's sports! Why? So I can crap on women's sports! That's some people. But for those of you who aren't operating in bad faith and just seriously think WNBA players don't have a case to make more money, I got some facts for you, okay? They get about 9% of revenues. Should be, if you go to collective, for most pro leagues, in the range of 50. You know, I mean, the NFL pushing that 50, but it should be much more than 9. There is a CBA negotiation upcoming. They're gearing up. They're rallying public support. They should do well. And hell yes, they deserve it. Hell yes, they are owed it. The WNBA just secured a new media rights deal with Disney, NBC, and Amazon Prime that's worth $2.2 billion. There's 2 more media rights packages that can add close to $300 million. WNBA franchises in the last year have gone up nearly 200%. The average value, $269 million. Collectively, the franchises are valued at $3.5 billion. The average player salary is $148,000. I mean, I have to get Dave Portnoy on this. I mean, we ran about Dave Portnoy. Let me read a Dave Portnoy tweet about this. Quote, I see lots of morons trying to act like WNBA players don't deserve more money. They're throwing around the lost $50 million number that nobody even knows where it came from. It's a really long tweet. Continuing, quote, the league's exploding, franchise values are exploding, ticket sales, merch, all of it. The players have it. This is a really long tweet, but I'll end it with this. Of course they deserve more money. Just the values of the team pay for it without all the other stuff. If somebody told me I could buy a Boston team for $250 million, I would do it without blinking. That's all you got to know about the WNBA finances. Guys, I work at The Athletic. So this is I'm not giving up company secrets.
Did you know Joe writes for The Athletic?
Thank you. You know, this has all been reported publicly. Okay. The Athletic was started in January of 2016. Adam and Alex, great job. Love those guys. They've sold it by now to the New York Times. Well, 2016 is when we started. As has been reported publicly, like we just got profitable not too long ago. It's been, several years to get there. Those guys had to go out and get some big names early to give, to help the company in the early stages get legitimacy. I have an idea of what some of them make. We did not wait for profitability to pay people who make revenue and pay them what they're owed. This is one of the dumbest conversations I've ever heard. And if you're still screaming about them losing money, please take a second to read a book or, God, go away.
I'm with you. I think it's stupid.
Long fuse.
It's stupid to say that they don't deserve more money. Obviously, they deserve more money. The one thing over the weekend that bothered me was the Kelsey Plum thing, where she kind of tried to throw Caitlin Clark under the bus. I'm like, as much as
Well, that was like Team Clark wasn't there,
yeah,
right?
she's like, it was a special moment for all of us to put these shirts on and make a statement. There weren't many members of Team Clark that were in there. I'm like, I understand that, I'm sure
that was bizarre.
A lot of the players probably do hate that Caitlin Clark draws all the headlines. And it's like, there are so many great players in that league outside of Caitlin Clark that just don't get enough attention. I mean, Asia Wilson has been the best player in that league for a long time and doesn't get enough attention. So I understand that, but also Caitlin Clark is a large reason why the fandom is growing.
Sure. I mean, I would say she's number one. She's not solo, but she's number one.
Right. I'm not saying these players need to kneel at her feet and bow and say, thank you, Caitlin, for bringing us all this attention. But
start another rant.
But it's like, you do have to agree that Caitlin Clark is a large reason why there are new fans getting into the WNBA.
Of course.
So I think you need to embrace her. You don't have to worship her if you're these WNBA players.
No, you're trying to beat her every night.
Right. Beat her every night, but also understand that a lot of your leverage when it comes to these negotiations does start with Caitlin Clark. And the new generation of players that are coming, like Paige Becker's getting drafted this year, draws a lot of eyes. Juju Watkins will be the same way when she comes out.
Right.
So I think that they're going to do very well for themselves in this negotiation, and they should. But you have to understand as these players, like, hey, don't hurt yourself in these negotiations by, you've got, not to say the golden goose, but like Caitlin Clark has this large effect that has allowed the league to grow exponentially in the last 2 years. Don't go after her and say that she's not helping you out with this movement when she is a large reason why you were able to get so far in these negotiations.
Yeah, I mean, the Kelsey Plum thing was dumb. That was bizarre. Okay, here we go. Joe, you need a lesson on economics. No one cares about WNBA. So again, the facts that I just told you. The $2.2 billion media rights deals that's going to get to about $2.5 billion. The franchise valuations that are collectively $3.5 billion, that are $269 million apiece. Someone who's very rich, who I believe him, he would buy a Boston franchise right now. No one cares about WNBA. You sure about that?
Yeah, you got a lot.
I need a lesson on economics. Or who needs a lesson on economics?
You've got a lot.
Give me your name so I can scream at you.
Really smart people are trying to buy into the WNBA right now. Like really smart rich people are trying to buy into the WNBA. Right. I think that deserves at least a little bit of credit that the league is going in the right direction.
Might mean something. I don't know. Call me crazy. All right, we come back. We will get back into the Titans, and we are going to get into Brian Callahan. He talks next hour. We're going to carry the beginning of that presser too, but we're going to get into a little bit of Berserker and Brian Callahan and that relationship as they enter this critical year. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final hour here, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3. The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Hit us up in the Game and Phone text line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman in for Robbie Stanley today. And on that phone line, talking Titans, we've got Ed in New Jersey. Ed, what's going on, my man?
Hey, guys, good morning. So the perception that I see from this front office, and you guys have touched on it, is that, there's a clear line, a separation of church and state between front office and coaching staff. Whereas in the past, it was all collaborative. Not saying there's not collaboration going on, but there's an evaluation of not only the players from the front office, but also the coaching staff. So where I struggle is it's pretty clear if Cam doesn't develop, then the bullseye goes on Callahan. But what about a guy like Femi? And what about a guy like Kevin Winston? If they don't develop, are the positional defensive coaches at risk? Is Denard Wilson at risk? And who's the person in the room that's going to challenge the front office to say, not the development, it's the players that you picked? So I just think it's a kind of a good setup as a finger pointing and a kind of a parachute for the front office. And I wanted to get your opinion on that.
Thank you, Ed. That's a great call and great points and great questions. And man, I mean, we're going to talk about this front office and Brian Callahan and, the idea that, maybe they have someone else in mind. Again, to me, that's just crazy to think when you are in this job and this job is such the shelf life can be so short that if you believed that, like if you're Borgonzi coming in and you believed you had someone, or if you're Chad Brinker and you believed you had someone, that you wouldn't just do it then. Because that guys get fired. Coaches get fired in 1 year in the NFL. So it's just hard for me to, first of all, and this is not what Ed's asking about, but it's hard for me to get to this idea that they're just sort of throwing away this year with a coach they don't believe in. And that's just hard for me to buy. But it's a great point. And again, like I said, question from Ed about like the separation. It does seem that way. It does seem like maybe, the coach at this point has less of a voice, but I don't know that. I wouldn't be comfortable speculating. Some people are very comfortable speculating on that. I don't think that these organizations out there that are successful don't have true collaboration. I really think that sometimes you can get in trouble with the coach GM, but I think you can also get in trouble if your coach is just a guy in the corner. You're like, here's your players. Good luck, buddy. That just doesn't make sense to me. So I think it's a great, question. I don't have an answer on it, but I do think that maybe the separation of GM and coach is a little bit overblown right now.
Yeah.
If not, then I really don't like Brian Callahan's chances.
I did find it interesting. It felt like they went out of their way yesterday, Berserker. They went out of their way to praise Brian Callahan multiple times and talk about how much they believe in him. I think that's something to take note of. I think they've probably heard people talking about how he might be a lame duck coach this year, but I've never understood that because you just took Cam Ward #1 overall. Why would you purposefully waste his first year knowing you're going to fire the coach? It doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. Like, if that's how you're thinking about it, like, yeah, all right, well, this guy gave him a second year. And again, like, you can always have meddling owners. Like, if owners want to really over meddle, they can say, no, you can't fire him. I want him another year.
That's true.
If that's the case, well, you're screwed. I mean, because the front office should be able to make those decisions, right?
But
obviously, the owner can step in at any point and fire someone, but if you want, like, let's say that scenario, these guys did actually have someone in mind. These guys don't want Brian Callahan, but Amy's like, no, you're not allowed to fire him. Well, then it's just a terrible situation. I don't think that's the case, but if that were the case, it would be a terrible, terrible situation.
Yeah, logically, if you thought you were just going to have Brian Callahan do a lame duck year this year, maybe Amy's tired of paying people not to work for her anymore and didn't want to fire both Rand and Callahan. If that was the case, then you don't take Cam Ward. Like, you trade out of that pick and just, hope you can hit it next year. But I don't think you take the quarterback and basically put all your chips in on Cam Ward,
knowing that you're gonna flip the script on him
right?
immediately.
You're like, hey,
but
Cam.
unless those
and
guys are there, look, I don't care. He's that good. He's gonna be fine. He'll survive it.
That's a
It'll
good
be
point.
okay.
That's a good point.
But I generally agrees with you. I agree with you. Like bringing in the QB to play for the QB whisper coach who is on borrowed time anyway is just bizarre.
It makes
if
no
that's the
sense.
case. Yeah,
it makes no sense.
So it's really interesting. But yeah, look, when it comes down to the accountability Ed's asking about, if Oladejo's a bad pick, Winston's a bad pick, as we start to see this unfold and see the choices and how they work out, well, I think I think Borgonzi certainly is on the hook for that, and then then it gets into the answering question of how much is Brinker on the hook. Brinker brought in by Rand, promoted over Rand, still here while they fire Rand. I mean, is it out of the realm possibility that Bergonzi could impress so much that all of a sudden he's promoted over Brink? I mean, I don't know. This could go a lot of different ways.
Yeah, who's next in line for the chopping block? Callahan is the easy one. I think he would be next. But then let's say things go horribly, you do fire Callahan, and things keep going horribly. Who's next? I would think Brinker probably. I think it's just whoever was brought in furthest back, that's the next one who's going to get fired until they finally find a combination that works.
I would think so too.
Don't they need to clean house at some point if they're going to keep doing that? Firing the coach, keeping the front office, keeping the coach, firing the front office. Like at some point, if you're going to keep going back and forth, you just need to get rid of all of them, bring in somebody and start over.
Yeah.
This year was your chance to do that.
Yeah, that's true. And you could go back to 2016 when you make the John Robinson hire, which was a great hire.
Yeah, it's been ever since the firing of Robinson, it's been this whole keep the GM, fire the GM, keep the coach, hire a new GM, fire the coach, keep the GM, bring in the new GM, keep the coach. It's like all over the place.
Right. And then even through all that, and we've talked about this with the Preds too, a lot of the people who are driving the decisions, who are doing the work, have been a part of the franchise. Now, that has changed over time a fair amount, but there's still some scouts and people in personnel who have been here through a lot of these changes too, which is another interesting part of it. But yeah, look, I like Skylar says, the owner is the problem. Can't fire the owner. The Titans are farted. Well, yeah, I mean, that is one way to look at it for sure. But what happens, even with owners who prove themselves to be at times out of their depth in pro sports, is sometimes they still get lucky on hires. If Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker said it yesterday a couple times, Mike's building this roster. So if Mike Borgonzi has a great feel for this job, Oladejo, I think, is a great person to bring up because it's a little bit not out of left field. He's a prospect, but still there were other guys who you could have picked who probably a little more ready right now. This is a high ceiling, kind of a risky pick, hasn't played the position long, but there are a lot of traits to like. Well, there's an example of one of those that if it works out, you look at it and you're like, okay, that's a pretty shrewd move, right? Obviously, Cam Ward's going to dictate everything. Cam's dictate. Regardless of Brian Callahan, Cam is going to tell the story.
Everybody's job depends on Cam Ward now.
Right. But we're going to find out. And so Amy they may have themselves someone who's really good. And if that's the case, then eventually they're all going to look better and they're all going to be fine. They're going to have a stretch of stability. But you still also have that question of the coach. And how they really feel about it. Again, I can't believe that they don't think he has a chance to be the long-term answer with all this stuff. If that's the case, it's just, then to me, they are screwed. They are farted. They are absolutely farted if that is how they are looking at it. When we come back, we will get into some of what they said and some of what it might mean. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in for player interviews and the latest updates on the Titans training camp as the team preps for the 25-26 season. Coverage of Titans training camp presented by Macero and 12 South and Parliament Energy Group. Chase and Big Joe will be out there today and tomorrow. Also, this week's Nashville Best Deal is Eastside Bowl in Madison. Eastside Bowl is a vintage bowling alley, music venue, lounge, and arcade designed by locals for locals. Get 2 hours of bowl plus shoe rentals for up to 6 people for just $45 while supplies last. Go to theGameNashville.com/deals to get yours now. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Jake Lyman in for Robby, and we are talking Titans. We are talking Brian Callahan and his relationship with the front office and what the expectations are and how that might go. Corey Curtis texted me and said, this is like the Bears did with Eberflus and et cetera, Caleb Williams. And I said, yes, but first of all, it wasn't a 1-year thing. And also, Eberflus last year, I don't, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he was they were going to fire him no matter what. And that would be stupid if they drafted Caleb Williams, they were going to fire him no matter what. To me, Eberflus got fired in season after he completely botched the clock in the game at Detroit. And I think over time, how many years did Eberflus coach the Bears? Do we know?
3.
That sounds right to me. But it wasn't again, Callahan here has been here for 1 year. It's a little bit different situation. I don't know that now they got it was 3
years. Yep.
They end up getting Ben Johnson. That's who they think is going to be perfect for Caleb Williams. And it may be.
Well, he got fired in his 3rd season. So almost made it through.
Fired in his 3rd season. Yeah. So yes, the Bears have been just like Ian, just like you've been talking about the timeline situation with the Bears is like they've done that famously for a long time.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit different situation. So there was some talk of Brian Callahan yesterday. Here is some of what we heard during their press conference. Sorry.
With the patience and looking for constant improvement, how does that apply to Brian Callahan? What are some of the things that you're looking for to say, okay, he's gotten better from then until now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it in the spring, the way he interacts with the players, the way that he communicates with them, and you could see them develop over the spring. And, I think he's got a really good control of the team. I've been impressed with that. So, like I said, it's going to be an evaluation process here as we go through training camp, as we get into the season, and how he develops these players and how the coaching staff does. And so far, they've done a tremendous job.
And I'll just add there, TD, I want Mike to speak on it because, this is the first time he's had the opportunity to work with Brian. And I think he's been really impressed with Brian and just how smart he is. And he's a good football coach. And I know personally, I've seen him grow from year 1 to year 2, like anybody would, whether it's a new GM or a new head coach or any position in your organization. There's a confidence there that I've been impressed with, and the way he's communicated with the players, with his staff, with everybody in the building. I've seen tremendous growth in Brian. We believe in Brian. I think he's done a really good job heading this offseason. But obviously, as we head into the season, we got to get these players' development. It's a big part of our program. We've been preaching draft and develop, and that's not going away. We need to have coaches who are the best teachers that we can possibly find that can help these players, reach their potential. So by year 3 of a rookie deal, we know what we're dealing with. Is this a guy that we can really build a future around, or do we have to replace it, with another younger player or somebody else? So the development piece of this is essential. And I've been really impressed with Brian from the coaching, development, and just the whole understanding the big picture of how to run a football team.
So there's a lot of interesting commentary yesterday from those guys about Brian Callahan. There was some talk about the little team building stuff that went on during the off season. Chris in Nashville texting lip service, maybe. Again, it's like it's just hard for me to get to the idea that this is all a ruse, essentially, right? That they're not giving him a legitimate chance. Like what if that's their mindset? And this year, Cam Ward's amazing, and Cam Ward publicly, privately is like, Callie has just brought out the best of me. The guy, we have an amazing partnership. So do you change your mind? I just can't believe that the mind would be made up right now.
Well, and you wrote this down on the grid. Like, why is everybody so sure that Callahan stinks? Like, I don't understand what you saw last year. Like, yes, the team went 3-14.
The product was bad.
And the product was bad. And a lot of that does fall on the shoulders of the coach. But they had horrible offensive line play and a quarterback who couldn't get out of his own way most of the time. I thought for the most part, Callahan's play calling was pretty good last year. There were some things in terms of being the head coach that he wasn't great at, but that comes with experience. And he did show, and I've said this before, he showed that he is not afraid to fire his friends when they don't do a good job. Colt Anderson's gone. He brought in Bones Fossil, who is one of the more accomplished special teams coaches available in the league. So I'm not saying I think Brian Callahan is going to completely turn it around in 1 year, but I don't get why so many Titans fans don't want to give him a chance to turn it around.
Yeah, look, and some people have their minds made up. They do. They have their minds made up, and I'm with you. It's hard sometimes to separate everything. It's hard. It's just hard to just say, here's the pie, and let's split it up. And this is 19% on Brian Callahan. And I do think that there was a big mistake made. And remember, Brian Callahan was a very pursued coach. Doesn't mean he's going to be good. There are plenty of hot name coaches in pro and college football who turn out not to be good. But he was very pursued. He does have, the resume and the path to be a good coach. And he took over what I would argue is the worst roster in the NFL.
Yeah.
I think the mistake, a huge mistake, and so you could blame him. You could also blame Rand. You could blame Brinker. Blame anybody who signed off on it. Blame Amy, because we can blame all this on Amy. But having two rookie coordinators is a mistake.
For sure.
Like I said, and of course, like I said, the special teams coordinator was a disaster last year. You worry a little bit about.
And your OC is like somebody so is he really
friend from high school?
Reluctant to maybe speak up when somebody else might. I don't know. They did bring in Mike McCoy this year. He's got some experience and some offense on the staff. Maybe he can help a little.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they made some changes. Like you said, Fossil is definitely a good hire. Texter says Callahan's a one-hit wonder with Joe Burrow. Really, it was just Joe Burrow being that guy, not Callahan being a good coach. You certainly can say that, but it's just like with anything. Like everybody wants to put everything on the quarterback. It's all the praise of the quarterback or all the blame to the quarterback. But quarterbacks do work with coaches, and quarterbacks do work with some coaches better than others, or in some systems better than others, with some personnel better than others, right? Like the idea that you can completely separate him from any success they had, I think is a little bit of a reach. I don't know how much, and maybe he was just a passenger, but he's also a guy who in his career has been around and seen the best of the best in different types of quarterbacks, which should be instructive and should be helpful for him. I'm just saying, like, I think if you right now are convinced and for sure what he is as a head coach, I think you're taking some leaps.
Yes. I'm not saying that I think he's going to be the head coach here for 10 years and put this team back on the map. But I think to say that, he's not the guy is a stretch at this point. I agree with you that hiring all rookie coordinators, including the special teams coordinator, was not a good idea. Jared has made the point many times that he should have done what Sean McVay did when he was hired as the head coach of the Rams and just hire a guy to take the defense and say, I'm going to be the head coach. I'm going to focus on the offense because I'm the play caller. You will be basically my defensive head coach. He didn't do that. Like Denard Wilson, I think has promise, but again, he hadn't done it before. So there were some mistakes made last year, but like you said, the idea that we know heading into this season that Brian Callahan is not a good head coach, I just don't believe that yet.
All right, quickly, Matt from Bellevue on the phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHand.com. Matt, what's up?
What's up, fellas? How you doing tonight?
Good.
So, I mean, when I hear you guys talking this morning, all I can put it to is I'm an Ohio State fan. Well, the Ohio State, with respect for dynasty, but Callahan to me is identical to Ryan Day. After Ryan Day lost to Michigan, everybody, including myself, wanted that guy gone. Get him gone, right? So you could say that Ryan Day going into the playoffs last year was a dead man walking, was a lame duck, was whatever you want to say. What did he do? Well, he absolutely embarrassed Tennessee and took them to pieces. He beat a sound Texas team. He wiped the field with Notre Dame. He lifted the championship. He's a national champion, and now no one, not the president of Ohio State, not the fan base, no one can run Ryan Day out of Columbus. That man's good for at least another 3 years. Win a natty, you get 3 years. That's about what LSU coach got. So if this guy doesn't like being a lame duck, if he doesn't like the conversations about him, all he has to do is get 9-10 wins, be in a conversation of a wild card, and he's job secure. So you control your own destiny in life. So it is what it is. There's no such thing as a lame duck, because a lame duck coach like Ryan Day at Ohio State can flip the script and become very secure. Winning is everything.
All right, thank you, Matt. Appreciate the call. We will react to that and get to some other things, including some sad news. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Jake Lyman in for Robby. The caller there, real quick, first of all, it's an interesting comparison with Ryan Day. One thing that helps Ryan Day is to have by far the most talented team in your particular sport to go ahead
Very good
and
point.
shut people up. But, yeah, look, I know Ohio State fans. Apparently Matt's not one of them, but I know Ohio State fans are like, great natty. Don't lose to Michigan this year. I mean, like it can flip on you. But that's just so hard to compare. Someone said in the YouTube chat, it's like, in the NFL, it's just a different deal, right? Super Bowl winning coaches have been fired 2 to 3 years after winning. Doug Peterson wins it, maybe the most brilliantly coached game I've ever seen in the Super Bowl to beat Tom Brady and the Patriots, and fired and now fired again at Jacksonville. It's just so look. You all may be right about him being a passenger with Joe Burrow. Here's a texter who says, quote, I appreciate what both of you are saying about Brian Callahan, but it seems like you both tend to be give them a chance guys. I heard you talk about Levis the same way, among others. And let me interject. Yes, before I know what someone is, I mean, Levis's first glimpse was decent, right? I mean, did he do some good things as a rookie? Texter continues, I'm with Jared. I think you can get an idea of some of these players and coaches early on. Callahan seems weak and has done little to impress or give confidence in his abilities. Well, that's fine. Jared always thinks someone sucks right away, and then sometimes he's proven right, sometimes proven wrong. I mean, if you want to go through the list of people he said sucks who ended up being good, there's a long list of that too, okay? I think that it's very fair to look at Brian Callahan and ask the question if he holds people accountable enough. I also think if you go around the NFL and really even college football, if you go around coaching, there are more coaches who are in the vein of Brian Callahan, whatever word you want to use, collaborative, then there are the classic, hard driving, hard boiled, exactly, Vrabel, who we'll get to in a second. Bottom line is you have to get people to perform. That doesn't necessarily have to be the old school, just, scream at them and by golly, you do this or that. But I do think that, it's fair, and this is something Jared brought up. Like last year when Jeff Simmons was just absolutely, going wild at camp and doing dumb stuff. Like, do you sit him down? Do you do something publicly to maybe show people, this is not okay? I think that's a fair thing to bring up. So while I think the traditional hold people accountable thing with coaches ignores where coaching has gone. I think that's still fair. Can he get people to perform? You say you liked his play calling last year. I think at times you definitely saw some of that. I also think it's like we can't block people, man.
He was limited.
Yeah, but then that also, does that take too much accountability away from him? I mean, I don't know. Look, I'm just telling you, I don't always know. And right now, I don't feel like I know. So I don't have, he is going to make it. He sucks. I don't have either of those takes right now. You can have either of them.
That's where I am too. I'm not trying to go out here and say Brian Callahan is a top 10 coach in the league and anyone who wants to fire him is stupid. I get it. It wasn't good enough last year, and he has to improve in pretty much every area of his job this season, holding people accountable. I said the play calling I thought was decent, but I think the offense obviously has to be more explosive, and you have to see him develop these players. The young guys have to get better throughout the year. J.C. Latham should be a really good right tackle by the end of the year.
And his dad, the biggest hire that they've made in the coaching realm, that's his deal.
Right.
And that's got to matter.
Cam Ward has to show promise this year. But it's also the other way. I can't say that I know he's horrible right now. Let's give him more than 1 year and give him this full off season of growth and see what he can do this year before we go pitchforks and torches and try and run him out of town.
But hey, if that's what you want to do, you can do that. Texter says, you're saying give him a chance after they were factually the worst team in the NFL. Why does that mean I should give him the benefit of the doubt? I'm just telling you that he coached 1 year and it was the worst roster in the NFL. I think factually it was the worst roster in the NFL. Or, whatever. Bottom 3 roster in the NFL. So, I mean, why does that mean there's no chance he could be good? I guess that I would flip the question around on you.
I'm not saying Zach Taylor is the best coach in the world, but I'm sure there were Bengals fans saying the same thing after they were the worst team in 2019. 2 years later, they were in the Super Bowl. Not saying that's all Zach Taylor. Obviously, Joe Burrow coming into the fold had a large part, but now you have Cam Ward. Maybe he's the spark that you need. You can't fire a guy after one bad season. Let's see what he does and improves upon in year 2.
So I think now would be a good time, as we've been talking about the current coach, to take a little break and enjoy the previous coach, Mike Vrabel, yesterday with the Pats media.
Now the guys are back. I know there's 90 of them, but generally speaking,
91.
91, excuse me, international pathway. How'd they do? How do you feel about how the guys came back?
I mean, whether you were in a coma when I answered Tom's question or typing on your phone or tweeting, I don't know, but I spent 5 minutes answering that question. And I can go back through it, but I'd rather not. We won't know. We did pretty good on the linear run test, which they practiced. They know what it was going to be. The big thing will come when they're in line contact. I mean, and you're sitting there, you're wrestling with a guy, and then the D lineman's rushing. He almost gets to the quarterback, but we're telling him to plant and run and go sprint to the football and then go do it again. Or we're asking Kyle Williams to go run a post, and he didn't get the ball, but he wanted to get the ball, but he didn't. Can he run back, get set, know what to do the next play? That's really where we'll see. So I'll be able to answer that question again, hopefully only once in a few days.
The Vrabster. Oh my goodness, boy, is he gonna enjoy that? You know, he's got like probably about a handful of PKs, a couple Jareds up there. We're gonna have a lot of good moments from Vrabel.
He better win. Like, if he's gonna keep doing that, he better win.
Yeah. All right, I want to quickly make an announcement here, and this has been in the Tennessee, and I think Willie has put it out there. Terribly, terribly sad news. Erin Donick, Willie's wife, passed away yesterday, 54 years old, and it's hard to put into words. Just the sadness that we feel for Willie and his family. I do want to read quickly. Brad Schmidt did a really nice obit of Erin in the Tennessean, about her involvement in the community. I mean, quote from Roger Dinwiddie, CEO of Stars Nashville, where she's been there as development director from 2008. He said, quote, Erin was a friend to everyone. Erin made everyone she came in contact with feel better at themselves. She shared her love for those she worked with. And Willie is quoted here too. And Willie has been so strong, through all this. And of course, Willie's been coming in and doing the show. Here's the Willie quote. Quote, she spent virtually her entire professional career helping others in the nonprofit sector of Nashville, Boys and Girls Club, Community High School, and Stars. Erin had a positive energy force that impacted layers and layers of people of all ages and backgrounds, made a lasting impression on not only close friends and loved ones, but often on people that only met her a few times, could make any person or group of people feel comfortable in any setting. More from Willie. Quote, many turned to her during their darkest, toughest struggles for support and guidance, a true gift. We all felt truly lucky to know her. Her light on all of us will never go out, end quote. Beautifully spoken. Rest in peace, Erin Donick. All our love to the Donick family, and we'll be back on Robby and Rexrode. Last segment here, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Jake Lyman in for Robby. We are awaiting Brian Callahan at the podium. When he gets there, we will take you to the start of that. I think probably Chase and Big Joe will jump in, and I mean, I imagine it's probably going to be about a half-hour press conference. So we'll get out. Chase and Big Joe, who are out there, will jump in. I see Nick Frazier just poised, ready to pounce in there in the studio. Thank you to those of you who sent prayers, thoughts, love, hugs, everything you can send to the Donics. Very much appreciate that. There was a Titans media policy that I wanted to get to today that we'll have to deal with tomorrow, which is a policy change, which is really, really interesting. We'll get to that. But in the meantime, I hope their policy is not to start press conferences later than scheduled. I mean, they used to be, when Vrabel was head coach, it was like, boom, 1,400 hours
Still
on the
stalling
dot.
here, yeah.
My good. So maybe, you know what? Maybe you guys are right. Brian Callahan can't show up for his 8:45 press conference.
You know what? I've changed my mind completely on him.
I mean, it is kind of like if you're going to have your time be 8:45, that's a very
Right.
like to me, like even if it's 9, it's like, or what, a top of an hour, it's like, 9:03.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you're going to say we are having a press conference at 8:45 a.m.,
you better be there at 8:45.
I'm not looking for a press conference that starts at 8:49 a.m. I'm looking for you to be on your P's and Q's. There we go.
For football here, really looking forward to the start of camp. I love training camp. I love what it brings. I love what it means. We have a chance to really take a step forward from what I felt was a really productive offseason. And now we have a chance to go put some pads on and play football and see how much better our team can get between now and our opening game. We got a lot of great work ahead of us versus each other, and then with a chance to go practice against 2 other teams here coming up pretty quickly, and then the preseason games as well. So a lot of work ahead, things I'm really looking forward to. Want to make sure our team comes out of this training camp with the identity that we're looking for, which is we're looking for a really smart, tough, high executing ability team that doesn't beat itself. And those are what we're after sort of every day we come out here, and looking forward to getting started. With that, go ahead.
How will you measure success for Cam Ward through this training camp?
For the quarterback position in general, it's a growth every day, especially for a young player. There's a lot of things that I thought he handled really, really well in the spring, and it's carrying over those things you've learned and applying them in a little bit more intense setting. And now we get a chance to actually go play a little football, play against some different schemes. His development's going to is a daily process, and there's going to be things that we got to correct every day, and there's going to be things that he's going to do really well every day we're going to try to continue those things. So every single day, I think, is going to be opportunity for development for him, and I'm looking forward to it.
How much is time at the center of this passing game, and how much are his feet at the center of that time?
The feet are really everything when it comes to your timing in the offense. Everything is tied to, is it a 3-step drop? Is it a 5-step drop? Is it an under center play action 7-step drop? Are you taking 1 hitch, 2 hitches? What is the route depth? What are the receiver steps? So all of that stuff works together. And the way I've learned offensive football from a lot of really good coaches is that the success of the passing game depends on the timing and discipline of the receivers and the quarterback. And that's ultimately what we're trying to get done. Cam's got great feet. He understands it. And now it's just repping that over and over again to where it becomes second nature. I feel really good about where we came out of the spring. I think at the end of the spring, he was starting to really understand and feel what it felt, what that timing felt like. And this is going to be a huge point of emphasis in his early part of camp to get as comfortable with it as possible, as quickly as we can. And I think he's up to that task.
Real out equation, how does that change what you were going to do with reps? How do you handle reps with Cam and the quarterbacks?
A majority of the ones reps, obviously. That's going to be a huge part of his development over the course of the camp. And those other guys will fill in those other spots, the 2s and 3 reps that are coming up. I've generally really carried 3 quarterbacks a lot of years in camps and for that reason. So there's more reps to go around for the guys that you're trying to pour into. And those guys that we're trying to pour into.
Officer Carter's retirement came as a bit of a surprise to you guys. How does that impact the competition with the Edge group?
Yeah, I mean, certainly anytime a guy decides to hang him up comes as a surprise, especially, you get to the right before training camp. It happens around the league. We're not, the only ones that have it happen to us, but yeah, you lose a player that you put some time and effort in developing and being a part of the system. So we're going to have to fill that with the guys that we have here. And we have some young players that have played some for us and Jalen Harrell and Ali Gay, who hopefully can take another step for us. And then again, you're still always looking to improve your team where you can. So those reps are going to go to the guys that are here, and we'll keep trying to push those guys forward.
Brandon Allen's numbers, not necessarily a lot of highlights there, but you know him better than anyone. What do you like about him? What do you value about him that you want him to?
Yeah, I spent a lot of years with Brandon. He's been in the league for, I think, 10 years now, so he's kind of seen all of what it means to be a quarterback in this league, good and bad. He's got a great feel for the system, for how to operate. He understands the role of the backup quarterback. He's got a lot of experience he can share with Cam as well, from all the places he's been and things he's done and seen. He also knows how to play quarterback. He knows how to do it. He can help manage the offense, operate it when he steps in there. So a lot of things that I like about Brandon. I'm very familiar with his game and what he does well. And he had a pretty good spring too. So we'll see how he looks in training camp.
Once Levis has the surgery, do you want him back here participating in meetings and rehabbing here, or will he do that on his own?
As of right now, he'll be out in California for a little while. And when and where after that process comes back, we'll see.
What to expect from him, or you kind of just with Will? Have you talked much with him about what to expect when he gets back, or are you kind of just letting him figure that out?
We'll address that when it comes. He's going out there to get surgery. He'll be out there for a little bit, rehabbing post-op, and then we'll kind of take it from there. There's no real concrete plan at this point.
Right away and get the roster spot, or do you have to wait for
It's probably a better question for Mike. I think we can put him on IR even if he hadn't had the surgery yet, I think, but don't hold me to that. I'll come right back.
Yeah, Brian, in the spring, you were talking about how you didn't necessarily want Cam to try to be a leader, just to try to get a feel for the day-to-day, what he has to do in the level, everything. At this point, as you guys get closer to the season, is that something you maybe want him to maybe make a concerted effort to grow more into?
Yeah, I think I get what you're asking as far as the encouragement to lead. I believe that Cam's got a very natural ability about him, just his personality. And I think I just, for the most part, would like him just to focus on playing good football and being himself. And I think that's going to be enough for him. He's got natural leadership qualities. They'll come out the more he's involved, the more he has success. So that'll happen naturally, I think. So I don't want to force him to do anything that's not organic to him. And I think he'll do a really good job with that.
To Jeffrey Simmons, how important is it for him to kind of set the tone as leader of the entire team these first couple of days of training camp?
Yeah, I don't ever worry about Jeff setting the tone. That's sort of his MO. But yeah, he's a huge piece of our defensive front. He's a huge part of our football team, and him playing well usually leads to really good things for our defense. And I'm excited to see where Jeff's at. He put a lot of work in this offseason. He's in phenomenal shape. Excited to see him put some pads on and be the Jeff that I think everyone here knows and loves.
All right, that's Brian Callahan. He's still going. We will continue there on the other side with Chase and Big Joe. Thank you, everyone, for sending the love. Keep sending that love to the Donics. Jake Lyman, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. Ian Safar, Chase and Big Joe coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.